We're back. I'm Aron Bernstein, and by now, if there's one chord we've seen, heard, analyzed, inverted, resolved, and interrogated,
where were you on the night of the 6th?
It's a dominant 7th. Here's a 5-7 chord resolving to 1 in the key of F major. Want to hear it again? Probably not. But wait. That B flat got respelled as an A sharp, so it no longer makes a minor 7th above the bass. It makes a 6th, and not just any 6th.
An augmented 6th.
Who cares? It's enharmonic, right? The chord is still going to resolve like a dominant 7th. Whoa! That is not how a dominant 7th chord resolves. That augmented 6th resolved outward to make an octave. We haven't seen that just yet. So I guess spelling really does make a difference. Welcome to the realm of
augmented 6th chords.
And to understand them, we're going to need to stop off at an old friend's first. We're going to start with the Phrygian cadence, and here's one of its most famous appearances. We're in D minor, and we go from a G minor chord in first inversion to A major. That's 4-6 to 5. It's called Phrygian because the bass drops a half step from scale degree 6 to 5, reminiscent of the old Phrygian mode. If we bring on some solfege, we see our 4-6 chord, G minor, has lay, do, fa, or scale degrees 6, 1, and 4. Watch it resolve. When 4-6 goes to 5, lay drops to so, do drops to ti, and fa goes up to so. So that's our Phrygian half cadence, 4-6 to 5 in a minor key. Now, at least as far back as the Baroque period, composers got the idea to embellish this cadence. They raised the root of the 4-6 chord, G in this case, to G sharp, that scale degree 4 being raised a half step, and the solfege for our 4-6 chord goes from lay, do, fa to lay, do, fi, and when it resolves to the 5 chord, we get one of the most unmistakable sounds in tonal music. The resolution was all the more inevitable because of that new tendency tone, fi, our raised scale degree 4. That creates a special interval above the bass. G sharp over B flat is an augmented 6th, and here's how it resolves. Outward to the octave. So we've basically intensified the Phrygian cadence, making our 4-6 chord desperate to go to 5.
I want to go there.
And thus, the augmented 6th chord was born. Remember, it's really just 4-6 going to 5, but with this chromatic passing tone, fi, embellishing the 4 chord on the way to the dominant. Now, it's true the augmented 6th sounds just like a minor 7th, but if we spelled the top note A flat, that would make this a B flat dominant 7th chord, which would resolve like this, to E flat major or minor. Instead, the top note is spelled G sharp, making this an augmented 6th. And once again, that resolves outward to the octave. So augmented 6th chords are another kind of predominant, a preparation for 5. They're just more slick and intense than an ordinary 4 chord. There are 3 basic types of augmented 6th chord. Buongiorno.
Guten Tag.
And
Bonjour.
in case you're wondering, and I know you are, there's no connection between these names and actual musical practices in Italy, Germany, or France. Like so many names in music, Dorian mode, Landini cadence, we've gotten stuck on them more or less arbitrarily. So don't read anything into these names. Memorizing them is enough. And for this lesson, we're going to look at the Italian 6th.
Andiamo.
We're going to start in minor keys, since the Italian 6th is really a high-octane Phrygian cadence, born and bred in minor. We're looking for the solfege lay, do, fi, and here it is. These extra notes are just octave doublings to make the texture more robust. Lay, the E flat, is doubled an octave below, as is fi, our C sharp. So this is an Italian augmented 6th chord, which Schubert places at the end of this measure. And true to form, it's a predominant, resolving to the 5 chord, D major. Once again, lay resolves down to so, Do down to T, and Fi up to So. And you can really see that augmented sixth, lay Fi, resolving outward to the octave. Now, the Italian is the only augmented sixth chord that actually has only 3 notes, and in this standard voicing, we'll call lay the bass note, do makes a third above the bass, and of course, Fi makes an augmented sixth above the bass. So because the Italian sixth was originally a first inversion triad, it makes sense to give it the figured bass 6-3. We can either put a sharp after the sixth to indicate that it's an augmented sixth. We can write Italian 6-3, or Italian augmented sixth with the plus sign also meaning augmented. All right, let's try our hand at creating this little signore in different keys. If we're in C minor and we want to approach our 5 chord with an Italian sixth, we need lay, do, fi. Remember that solfege, scale degrees 6, 1, and a raised 4. In C minor, that'll be A flat, C, and F raised a half step to F sharp. There's our Italian sixth, and it resolves to 5, a G major chord. This is what we see our pal Heinrich doing in the following passage. The Italian air, flight 6-3, is on approach to the 5 chord. There's our Italian 6 with lay do in the lower voices and fi in the upper voice. Italian 6-3, clear to land. Welcome to Cadence International Airport. Let's try 2 more. If you're in F minor, build an Italian 6th. Once again, we need lay, do, fi. This time that'll be D flat, F, and fa raised to fi, which is B flat raised to B natural. That's our Italian 6th, resolving to 5. How about if we're in C sharp minor? Lay, do, fi is going to give us A, C sharp, and then fa raised to fi, which is F sharp raised to, wait for it. You got it, F double sharp. Can't call that note anything else, otherwise it's not an augmented sixth above the bass. So in C sharp minor, it's A, C sharp, F double sharp, resolving to 5. Now the Italian sixth can just as easily resolve to cadential 6-4 on the way to 5. Bring it on home, Louise. We're in A minor now, and the piano left hand clearly shows the 4-6 chord, D minor in first inversion, transforming into an Italian sixth. There's lay do again in the lower voices, and fa in the top voice, a D, is raised to fi, D sharp. So you see, once again, the Italian sixth is really just an embellishment of the 4-6 chord, but this time it doesn't resolve directly to 5. It resolves first to cadential 6-4. Notice how this affects our voice leading. Lay drops to so, just like before, but do stays put, and actually splits off into a new alto voice, may. And as expected, the top voice fi resolves up to so. Now we have our 1 chord, A minor in second inversion, and of course that's really cadential 6-4, resolving to 5. Now so far we've seen the Italian sixth in its most straightforward voicing, lay, do, fi from the bottom up. But can it appear with its notes more mixed up?
Absolutamente sì.
I'll let Beethoven take it from here. We're in C sharp minor, and by the time we get to the last beat of this measure, we've got an Italian sixth, which quickly resolves to 5. Taking a closer look, we've got all the tones we need for that Italian sixth. The bass has A, that's lay, and the upper voices have C sharp and F double sharp, do and fi. But notice how they're flipped. Do is above fi, not the other way around. So your Italian sixth can easily be arranged with your upper voices switched, and it won't change the way they resolve. Lay still goes to so, do to ti, and fi up to so. Now so far, we've looked at music in a 3-voice texture, and that works out fine with the Italian sixth, which has only 3 notes. Even in Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, where he doubles this C sharp an octave lower, that's all really just 1 voice, lay, do, and fi. The voice with do is just reinforced, because that's the melody. So the Italian sixth is well suited to a 3-voice texture, like this one in Mozart's Fantasia. 3 notes, 3 voices, and that's all. But what if there are 4 voices? Time to start seeing double. And no, Beethoven's not going anywhere. This movement is remarkable because our very first chord is an Italian sixth, resolving to 5. Nothing else about it is surprising, except we've got 4 voices now. So the Italian sixth must have one of its 3 notes doubled. Question is, which one? Let's go to the map. Apparently Beethoven thought we didn't have enough sharps, so he put us in F sharp major. Why? There's only 6. Here's the Italian sixth with lay, that's D natural, do, F sharp, and fi, B sharp. By now you can tell it's do, F sharp, that's being doubled. Our 2 inner voices have that. So why did Beethoven choose this note to double? Well, lay wouldn't have worked. That note can only resolve one way, down to so. 2 voices have lay and you get
Parallel octaves.
when going to 5. And you don't want to double fi for the same reason. It only has one place to go, up to so. 2 voices with fi,
Parallel octaves.
the only note in the Italian sixth that can resolve in 2 different directions is do, the 3rd above the bass. Watch as we go to the 5 chord. The alto's do moved down to T, as expected, to the 3rd of our 5 chord. But the tenor's do moved up to re, the 5th of our 5 chord. So do can resolve in 2 different directions, and that makes it the only practical note to double in the Italian 6th chord. Alright, I'm going to be seeing sharps in my breakfast cereal. Sugar sharps! Let's try another one. How about A minor? We've got lay, F, do, that's A, and fi, D sharp. In 3 voices, that's enough, but for 4, we need to double do, the 3rd above the bass, the A. We'll give that to a new tenor voice. Now, when we resolve the Italian sixth to our 5 chord, lay drops to so, fi goes up to so, and that leaves us with our 2 voices on do. Remember, that's the only note in the Italian sixth that can resolve 2 different ways. The soprano's do can move down to T, leaving the tenor's do to move up to re. I love perfect voice leading. Notice how when we had the Italian sixth in 3 voices, we had to resolve it to an incomplete 5 chord. Do resolved down to T, and we had to make do with the 5 chord missing its 5th, re. But when you're in 4 voices and you double do, one of them gives you T, and the other re, resulting in a complete 5 chord. Speaking of richer harmony, time for my buddy, Brahms. Once more, we see a Phrygian cadence put into overdrive by turning a 4/6 chord into an Italian sixth, before resolving to 5, or in this case, cadential 6/4. But Brahms does something a bit different here. He's in the key of C minor, and notice the 4 chord isn't the expected F minor, it's F major, major 4/6. Now there are 2 chromatic changes we have to make in order to turn the 4/6 chord into an Italian sixth. The major 4/6 chord is La, Do, Fa. As before, we need to raise Fa up a half step to Fi, that's F to F sharp. But we also need to lower La to lay, A to A flat, and that finally gives us the Italian sixth. So if you've been wondering this whole time if we could have an Italian sixth in a major key instead of minor,
Absolutamente sì.
it just takes more chromatic changes to make it work. Beethoven, what you still doing here? We're in C major this time. Beethoven leads us over this nice chromatically descending bass line from C down to G, Do to So. By the 4th measure, he hits the 4/6 chord, which, in the key of C major, is an F major chord in first inversion. Now, if he just went from there straight to 5, our bass line would end with a whole step, La down to So. But by inserting an Italian sixth, he's able to continue that downward chromatic slide. Looking closer, we see the same thing as the Brahms example. Our 4/6 chord has La, Do, Fa. La in the bass and tenor, Do in the alto, and Fa in the soprano. Now, to turn this 4/6 into an Italian sixth, we have 2 chromatic changes to make. Fa has to become Fi, that's F to F sharp, And because we're in a major key, we have La, which has to become Lay, A to A flat. Notice once again that in a four-voice texture, Beethoven doubles Do, C, the third above the bass, the only note in the Italian sixth that can resolve in two different directions. When we go to 5, Lay falls to So, Fi up to So, and then our alto's Do resolves to Ti, while the tenor's Do resolves up to Re. And a complete 5 chord awaits us. Okay, a quick review. The Italian augmented sixth is an embellishment of the Phrygian cadence, 4/6 to 5 in a minor key. The 4/6 chord has Lay, Do, Fa, scale degrees 6, 1, 4. Raise the root of this chord, Fa, a half step, and you get Lay, Do, Fi, the Italian sixth. That interval, Lay, Fi, is an augmented sixth, and it resolves outward to an octave when you go to 5. Lay steps down to So, 6 down to 5, and Fi steps up to So, the raised 4 up to 5. And finally, Do steps down to Ti, 1 to 7. Next, the Italian sixth has only 3 notes. When it resolves to 5, you get an incomplete 5 chord, missing Re. But in a 4-voice texture, be sure to double Do, the third above the bass. Then, with 2 voices on Do, one can resolve down to Ti, the other up to Re, giving you a complete 5 chord. And last, the Italian sixth can also occur in major keys, but you need to make 2 changes to the 4/6 chord. Fa up to Fi, as before, but also La down to Lay. For this reason, the Italian sixth sounds a bit more jarring in major keys than minor, as you can hear in the overture to Mozart's Magic Flute. So, them's the rules for Italy, and I've got some worksheets to help you get some good practice using the Italian sixth in real music. Stay tuned for our next video where we extend our passport to Germany and France. Until then, thanks for watching, and let's go Pack!